And welcome back, everyone, to episode 51 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew, alongside my co-host, Vince, and today we are welcoming a very special guest. He is the linebackers coach and recruiting coordinator for Kennesaw State, Liam Klein. Liam will be joining us in just a second. We have a lot of good questions for him, and we hope to get a lot of insight to what's going on in college football, Kennesaw State, and even some questions about the new NCAA game. So we're going to pop over to him. All right, and now we're back joined by assistant Kennesaw State coach Liam Klein. So as you already said, Liam is the inside linebackers coach and recruiting coordinator for Kennesaw State. So we have some good questions for him, and I'd say we just get started with the questions. So as I mentioned, you're the inside linebackers coach, but before that, you were the defensive line coach for the first 10-ish years of your career at Kennesaw State. So what have you done in terms of prep and learning to transition into this new role?
It's been an exciting change for me, coaching the same position for as long as I did at Kennesaw. I was really excited by the chance to move to this new position. For me, just taking the knowledge that I've learned over my years of coaching, for starters, to kind of start out when I got moved to this. But then from there, just talking to a bunch of buddies of mine that are coaches that have coached linebackers, using coaches on staff, colleagues of mine in the profession. You're never too old to learn. So watching clinics, reading some books, reading some articles, all those types of things to really, get the fundamentals down, the basics down, and then obviously really getting with our defensive staff and our defensive coaches to learn all the ins and outs of how exactly we want the linebackers to play in our defense.
Yeah, and was there anything that fueled that transition specifically, or was it just that job opening up at Kennesaw?
Every year in college football, just like how the rosters are changing a lot, coaches change. And we had a year this year where we had several coaches leave. We had a new coordinator come in, and just with some of the coaches we were able to hire, some people needed to move around. And I'm a team guy. I'm not going to just label myself as a defensive line coach. I'm always ready to learn, and this is a new challenge after being at Kennesaw for as long as I have. This has been a really exciting move for me, and like I said, I'm going to do whatever I can to help the team win. And if this was the move that was needed for that, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and Liam, on top of your transition, Kennesaw State recently joined Conference USA, and with that came a host of new opponents. How has your coaching and recruiting adjusted to these new challenges?
Well, I'll tell you guys, it's been a challenge. We started the program from scratch, and then quickly went into the FCS, which is Division One. It's just that level below the FBS. So with moving up to the FBS, I mean specifically in recruiting, just like anything, you got to get bigger, stronger, and faster. Okay, so you're going to be playing teams that are week to week that are bigger, that are faster, that are more athletic. So you just have to try and find a better athlete, a bigger athlete, a longer athlete. And, with that, you have to expand your area too. We had a pretty good footprint for being FCS, but we had to expand our area. We're more into Florida now than we've ever been. We've gone north into Tennessee and into the Carolinas, a little bit into Virginia, a little bit more now. And then for some positions, we'll go national. So, you just got to go try and find a little bit better athlete. And not to say that guys that we've recruited in the past couldn't play at FBS. There definitely have been players that could. We just need more of them, right? The biggest difference between the highest level of college football and the levels that are below it are depth. Okay, you may have a really great 11, but what do you have after that 11? Who do you have on special teams? Okay, so from that standpoint, we really had to go out and go just find, like I said, size. Size is really the biggest thing. Just everybody's bigger at that level. And then from a coaching standpoint, really, just trying to coach a little bit harder, trying to be a little bit more detailed, try to coach our guys up to understand what they're going into this fall. It is going to be very, very different from what we have played in the past. So for our players that have been on the roster for a while, just coaching them and trying to get them ready for what they're about to see week to week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Conference USA specifically, Media Day was, I believe, last week and stuff. Have you learned anything from other Conference USA teams for how you go about recruiting and stuff like that, or is it more just focusing on that transition to the FBS overall?
The media days are great because you can learn a little bit more about the new opponents. I mean, we are playing a schedule. We have one familiar opponent in Tennessee Martin, who we played 2 years ago. I shouldn't say. We've also played Jacksonville State. We played them 2 years ago. Liberty's been a couple years since we played them, but outside of that, it's really a bunch of new opponents. So over the last few months, really once the season ended, we've taken some time and prepared ourselves for each opponent, knowing them a little bit. So when we get into the season, we have that information already. But like I said, just getting ready for the amount of physical, fast, football that we're going to be playing each week. We try to do as much prep work on our opponents early as we can.
Yeah. And for you mentioned you've already played Liberty, and then Sam Houston is another school that's starting to transition to FBS as well. But for Liberty, they were in a big bowl game last year, and we saw them kind of on a more national scale. So as you're transitioning to Conference USA, you're also seeing these teams that have played powerhouses like Oregon and stuff like that. So you're also kind of transitioning into playing against teams that have put up good fights against these really good schools, not just in Conference USA. So again, going to FBS is more of like a national um, scale than FCS in those specific teams.
Yeah, listen, we've got to play Liberty. We've got to play Sam Houston State. We've got to play some of these teams. Western Kentucky's another really strong program. Middle Tennessee State's a historically tough program. We played Middle Tennessee State when I was at Georgia Tech, and if my memory serves me correct, we lost to them one year. So these are tough teams. And I think it's great, the fact that Liberty went to a major bowl game for the league. It's a recruiting point for all of us. Now we have to go compete against them, which will be a tough match. But to go recruit a guy and say, hey, listen, if we have a great season, these are things that we can do. We can go get in the playoff. We can go get to these major bowl games. And I think that's a huge selling point for our program.
Yeah, of course. So recently, you also made history with having your first draft pick in program history in Travis Bell. And throughout your time as defensive line coach, you were obviously a big part of his journey to the NFL. So what was it like getting to work with him?
Oh, it was incredible. Travis was a young man that came in. He played really kind of all different types of positions at his high school down there in Alabama. He's originally from Montgomery, Alabama, played at a pretty good program down there. And he played some linebacker. He played a little bit of defensive end. He was light at one point, then he got heavy at one point. When we got him, one thing that stood out about Travis was he is incredibly competitive and he's incredibly tough. He can just go on and play. He plays through pain. He works his butt off in the weight room. He worked his butt off in the classroom, earned a degree. So just really a really strong, motivated, man. And getting him as a player, there just was an intensity about him. Now, on top of all of that, he's incredibly strong. He's fast. He's twitchy. I think at his pro day, he weighed 310 pounds and ran basically 5 flat 40. He bench pressed 225, just under 40 times. So he's a pretty strong guy, and he's only 6 feet tall, which is what makes me even more proud of that he's overcome some of those challenges that some people may have with their height being really good players. But the NFL saw through that. He got drafted by the Bears. The Bears did an incredible job scouting him and spending time with him and took a chance on him. And really, his journey's unique. He made the practice squad, and then there were some injuries with the Atlanta Falcons, and they signed him to the active roster, and he ended up playing in a few games for the Falcons last year. So when he did that, that was really, really incredible. After toward the end of the season, he ended up with the Bengals. That's where he's at now in training camp, and I'm hoping he gets a chance to really show what he can do this fall.
All right. So recently, Kennesaw State you mentioned it's a very young program, and they only started their football program a little over 10 years ago. And you started with a completely fresh slate there. So what was that like going about that?
It was really I don't know how to phrase it. It was a unique experience. You know, it was a once in a lifetime experience. I had been off the field at Georgia Tech, meaning I was on the football staff, but I handled all the recruiting down there. And our quarterbacks coach, Coach Bohannon, had the opportunity to be the head football coach at Kennesaw State. You know, at the time, I've lived here in Atlanta for 10 years. I knew of Kennesaw State because some of their other sports had played Georgia Tech in baseball or softball or basketball and whatnot. But I really hadn't been to campus much, driven through it, on the highway on 75, but never really explored the campus. Well, Coach Bohannon gets named the head coach, and he asked me if I wanted to get back coaching, which is something I wanted to do. And I was able to go up there. And I tell this story all the time. When we started, Coach Bohannon hired three other assistant coaches. I was the first one to get there. The other two just had to go finish out, at the places they were at for about another week or so. And we were put what seemed like just an old storage closet. They cleaned out, put a desk in it. Coach Bohannon was on one side, I sat in the other. The athletic director came in, and he said, on that first day, he said, "All right, guys, good luck. Go build a college football team." So you say to yourself, where do you start, right? I mean, think about that experience, someone saying that to you. And at the time, we weren't playing for, oh gosh, guys, I think about 2.5, 3 years, right? And we didn't have a helmet. We didn't have a schedule. We had a locker room. We had a stadium, which is one of the big selling points of when we started out that we had. But all we had was our logo, and we didn't know anything else about the program. So we kind of divvied up. Coach Bo kind of went the fundraising route, trying to, get awareness for the program. And he said, "Hey, let's go get a recruiting plan." So as the other three coaches came on staff, or other two coaches, excuse me, the four of us went out and recruited our tails off that spring. And then the fall of 13, we kind of just recruited. We signed a class in February of 14, which was incredible. That class came in and we practiced for a year. Now, guys, football's a tough sport, right? We practiced somewhere around 100 practices with a group of 100 guys for about a year. Okay. It was a long year. All right. It was a long year. But what we tried to do was get these young men tough, physical, well coached. We certainly weren't the most talented team, but we were well, we were detailed in what we were trying to do with them. And we got the team tough and we got them believing they can win. So in the fall of 15, we started. It seems like yesterday, but that was 10 years ago now. And it was just a really incredible experience. We had early success. We went 500 year one. We had another winning season year two. Year three, we won the conference, went to the playoffs. Year four, the same thing, and it kind of went on from there. So we've had some success, but a lot of it is due to just the motivation, the hard work, and the dedication that the young men who started this program as players, what they believed in. And really, guys, that's what we're trying to do now. We're starting over again. We're in a new league. We've had to kind of change our roster. We've changed some things we've done X and O wise on offense and defense, and we're starting over again. And we're trying to go compete. We want all our goal. We want to go be competitive in every game we play in. But going back to the original question, it was guys, it was a pretty neat experience to go out to schools, and they're looking at you like, where's Kennesaw State? Is that somewhere up north? And we said, no, we're actually one of the biggest schools in the state of Georgia. And now I go through those schools. Not only do they know us, but they will say, "Hey, yeah, we have 4 or 5 students there. We got 10 students there," and that's all over the state, not just near in the Atlanta area. So that part of it's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned that early success. You guys won the league 3 times in your time with the Big South. You ended up going to like the national FCS playoffs 4 times, I believe. And so just that early success, and with that original recruiting squad that you guys had, you were able to really build this team up literally from the ground into a team competing on the national level, which is just amazing.
Yeah, It's been an incredible run. I'm not going to say it was. It's been an incredible run. But like I said, we found a group of men, really, young men when they came out, men when they graduated. But we found a group of men that believed in themselves and they believed in what we were telling them. We told them in the first ever team meeting, all right, with, I don't know, 30 walk-ons and something like 30 scholarship players and about 60 or 70 walk-on kids. We told them they're going to be champions, that they're going to go win championships. And they believed it. And they believed it their whole time there, and they went out and they earned it. And we had a lot of guys that had chips on their shoulders, guys that might have been deemed too slow, too small, not athletic enough for some other programs. And we just hammered that home with them. And when you got a group of motivated guys that are working toward a singular purpose, man, things can be special. And that's what happened. And now we've had young men go on to do great things. We've had a couple guys make the NFL, the CFL, the UFL. We've also had coaches leave our program that have gone on to do some great things. If you look out through pro football and college football, we've had some great coaches here that have gone on to bigger things, and just been a lot of success. And really, all of it stems back to how Coach Bohannon had a vision for the program and how he runs his program.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously you were with Brian at Georgia Tech, and he was the former QB and backs coach at Tech. You were also on the coaching staff with him, and he took the job at Kennesaw State. You followed him. How has your relationship grown with him over the past 16 years?
Well, we've always had a great relationship from our time when I first met him. When Paul Johnson was hired at Georgia Tech, he brought Coach Bohannon with him from Navy, and I got to meet him there. And like I said, I was just doing recruiting, so I helped him a lot with his recruiting area and just all the things that he may have needed help with. And when he had the opportunity to take this program and start it from scratch, and he asked me to go, there was a level of trust there that I was going to go work hard for him and the vision that he set forward. And I think in our time together, the biggest thing is just maybe that trust has grown. Hopefully, I've proven myself to be I'm a loyal coach. I'm dedicated. I believe in the path that we're headed and going, and I believe in the culture that he's established here. I think it's incredible, and I understand the things that he looks for a little bit. I've spent some time with him, so I certainly can help too when newer coaches come in and they're saying, well, how do we do this? How do we do that? How do we do this drill? Or how do we do this in recruiting? And, I can steer some of that my way because I understand how things need to be or how things should be run in coach's vision. So I would just say the biggest thing about our relationship is that maybe the trust and the in his vision that I'm fully behind it and he understands that.
Awesome. So throughout your career, you've moved from Ivy League to the Patriot League, ACC, and then back to FCS. And now, again, you're back to FBS with Conference USA. What's the biggest thing you've noticed in terms of differences between these leagues?
That's a great question. Every place I've been has been uniquely different, right? So my first job was up in Pennsylvania at a Patriot League school, high academic, small enrollment college playing historically good, tough programs in the Patriot Leagues. Lehigh, Lafayette is where I coached, Colgate, Bucknell, just really good programs and really true college football. In my first year coaching at Lafayette, I got to coach in the Lafayette Lehigh game, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the oldest rivalry in all of college football, right? So I do a year there, and then I get on at Harvard, all right? I moved to the number one academic school in the country. I think I had some notion a little bit of what I was going to expect, and I was completely off. Those players were tough, hard-nosed. Coach Murphy had done a great job establishing a culture of winning and a culture of toughness. Got to coach some unbelievable young men. I was on defense, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was our quarterback. We had a young man named Carl Morris who ended up playing the NFL for a couple of years, was on our team. So we had some really good players, and they played hard. And then I went to Georgia Tech, and everything changed, right? Georgia Tech's in the ACC. It's in one of the power conferences. And, going back to what you asked, I think having done all that and going to a place like Tech, the biggest difference is just financial support, right? I don't know what the numbers are budget wise, but we bust everywhere in the Ivy League, in the Patriot League, right? We ate the same thing every time we traveled somewhere. We got some gear, but it was a limited amount and it was very kind of generic, right? I go to Georgia Tech, and my first day in the job, there's 4 pairs of sneakers, 4 sets of workout gear, 4 sets of warm ups, all in my locker waiting for me. I'm like, okay, this is pretty neat. I'm 23, 24 years old. This is pretty cool. We charter an airplane and fly everywhere. So just from that standpoint, it was a big difference. And then you get into the recruiting world, and there is a budget, but at times it didn't seem like there was. We had to do whatever we had to do to go get the best players on campus. And within my first, 3-4 years of Georgia Tech, we recruited and signed Calvin Johnson and Tashard Choice. And there's hundreds of guys. I mean, not hundreds, but there's a ton of guys I could mention. But not that we did anything illegal, but we had to go spend some money to go get those guys and show them that we really wanted them at Tech, and whether that's in, mailings, official visits, all that kind of stuff. So that was the biggest difference. And then I moved on to Kennesaw, and luckily the athletic director at the time when we started the program had budgeted out a good number for us to get going. And so we've always had a ton of support at Kennesaw. We're somewhere in between what we spent at Georgia Tech and what, I was used to in the Ivy League and Patriot League. So we're not quite there. Hopefully we'll be there here soon, but we're not quite there yet. But I would say just the biggest thing is just the financial kind of support and resources that a big school has compared to these smaller schools.
Yeah, and you also attended Monmouth University, and you played there for a bit. You had a couple homecomings with them while at Kennesaw State. So what was that experience like going back to there?
It was really an awesome experience for me. Coach Callahan, the head coach at Monmouth, is an incredible coach. He's still there. He was my college coach. And, we start this program here at Kennesaw, Georgia, right? Kennesaw is about 20 minutes north of Atlanta, big suburb in Cobb County, right? And Monmouth had gotten out of the conference they were in and were looking for a home, and they got in the Big South Conference. Well, we start our program, and Big South is the conference we ended up in. So what are the odds of being down here in Atlanta and playing a team from New Jersey? I thought was pretty cool. But, as we went and played them, we played them at home in 15. In 2016, our game up at Monmouth was the last game in the stadium that I played in before they tore it down. And had a lot of friends and family there. It was really, really a unique experience for me in terms of just all the memories of being there. We did win that game, and we had some success against them. But it was always, I've got a lot of friends on that staff. Obviously, I'm still pretty close with Coach Callahan, and always have a ton of respect for them and how they run their program. And whenever we're not playing them, I'm rooting for them. But it was a really cool experience to play against them.
Yeah. I just have a quick question though. How did it feel to be with Ryan Fitzpatrick though? I mean, as a Dolphins fan, I love him. So
it was a long time ago, and I was on defense. But from what I remember about him was just unbelievable passion for the game, unbelievable personality. Could always have a great conversation with him. When he put his helmet on and he went to practice, went to games, he just was an ultimate competitor. I think he was a sophomore when I was there, and we had a fifth-year senior that had played a little bit and got hurt, and then Ryan came in. But just an awesome person to be around. A contagious, just disposition in terms of, his energy and his passion for the game and just how he deals with people. But I just remember it fondly. He was a really, really good player in our program, great person, and he and I had some good conversations. Haven't talked to him in a long time, but when he was up in Buffalo, the strength coach at Buffalo was with us at Georgia Tech, so I relayed a hello to him through Coach Ciano, and it was reciprocated back, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you talked a lot about recruiting and how it's gone about with budgets and things like that. So, how has the addition of NIL in recent years, and how has that changed the landscape for you, really?
Well, guys, it's changed it a bunch. You went from not being able to play players to playing them, and it has affected recruiting. It's affected how rosters are managed. I mean, it's a pretty wild world, and it's not changing anytime soon. So you have to adapt, right? And we're doing the best we can at Kennesaw State. We're working on all that. As far as I know, I don't. As a coach, we don't have a lot of in-depth knowledge of all that stuff. It's kind of handled outside of the coaches. Um, but I do know, just in talking to colleagues at other schools, it's especially the big schools. It's a big factor, and there are young men when you start recruiting them, and especially more in the transfer portal than high school. They may say, "Well, coach, I'm getting this from this school, getting this from that school." Those are things you have to deal with now, and it has certainly changed. You can go build relationships with young men and do all the things that you've done in recruiting, forever. And now it seems there could be outside factors that can help a kid make a decision, more than just the relationship piece and the recruiting piece that had always been in the past. So it's definitely changing. I'm sure it's still so new that it will be kind of tidied up in the next couple of years, meaning like they'll clean up some of the rules. Maybe they'll put some restrictions on stuff. I don't know. Just I'm sure it'll get mainstreamed a little bit here. Just like anything new, they throw it out there, then they got to figure out what the issues are, and then they try to fix them, and then we'll have a level, a playing field that everyone's happy with.
And lastly, if you've seen anything about the new NCAA 25 game, obviously Kennesaw State was included as a new FBS school. What are your thoughts on the game itself, and potentially if you've seen anything about how recruiting works in it? Um,
Man, guys, I think it's awesome. I have not personally played it yet. Um, I do not have a PS5 or an Xbox. Maybe that will be something my kids might get in the coming months because I do want to play it. It's funny. I have an old PS2 downstairs, and I have, I think, 10 straight years of NCAA from when I played it. But going back to it, being able to see our stadium, our jerseys, our logo, and seeing it on social media, I don't know. Obviously, I'm zoned into what is being talked about with Kennesaw State football on social media, but based on my feeds, it seems everyone in the country is doing a dynasty with Kennesaw State and trying to win. So you turn on your social media and you're getting these incredible clips of our young men on our team, winning the Heisman and winning national championships as a team and all of these things. And I just think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. They did a great job of getting our players what they look like, kind of what their attributes are, and talking to our players about it. For the most part, most of them are pretty happy with, how they've ended up in it. Um, but I think it's awesome, guys. I think it's awesome to be able to see something in a video game and see players that we've helped recruit in there, and knowing that 10 years ago we didn't even have a football team. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome, and I'm so glad they brought it back. I think it's one of the best things that gaming has done in a long time. It was a shame that it went away, but I know it's really really popular, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be. As the years go on.
yeah. And I will say I'm awful at recruiting right now in the game. I started like
No,
dynasties and whatever. It's it's so
it's
much.
pretty easy actually.
No,
You just send them to the house. All you got to do is send them to the house, and you're good.
yeah,
Who?
but
What team are you doing it? What team are you doing a dynasty with?
I'm doing Wake Forest because I have some family that's attending there. And one day I'll get to my Kennesaw State one, but for now it's hard enough for me to deal with Wake Forest. But it's just you're looking at they auto generate hundreds of thousands of guys that you have to look through, and you have to pick what you were talking about, how you were changing where you were looking for recruits in the country and stuff like that. You have to look around, you have to see what's in your pipeline and things like that, and when you want to schedule visit days and all this stuff. And I mean, obviously you're a professional and you do this in real life, but I think if you're looking at how they've been able to integrate it into the game, it's just been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that the recruiting part of it is pretty neat, and all the things you mentioned there, all things we have to deal with. Timing's everything, and especially in recruiting. So I think it's awesome, like I said, that they've put that much effort and detail into the recruiting part of it. So now people can experience just a taste of kind of what we go through.
I think the only issue is that there's no coaches in the game. I mean, that would be something in the coming years. But if they added coaches, I mean, it'd be complete.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. I know my kids would enjoy it, but I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I hope you do get a chance to check out Kennesaw State in the game because it's just absolutely amazing everything they've done, and of course you get Kennesaw State to the national championship and stuff like that. And yeah, of course I've been seeing the Kennesaw State clips and stuff too. It's been just absolutely amazing. It's really cool. I feel like this is a really timely time to get to talk to you with Kennesaw State really blowing up because everyone's going and making them the powerhouse in NCAA 25, and with the release of the game, this is really a perfect time to get to talk to you.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and let's hope that we can go do the things on the field that people are doing in the video game. I think all of everyone associated with our program, our goal is to go win championships, and they've expanded the playoffs now, and our big thing is why not us? We're in a great location, got a great school, got a great coaching staff, we got great players. Why not us?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We had an amazing time talking to you. We definitely learned a lot about Kennesaw State, and I hope everyone out there did as well. Um, Again, hopefully you get a chance to play NCAA 25 soon. But again, thank you so much, and good luck this year.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks.